For a startup, I was looking through every single message and trying to get the notifications to go away and then flagging them in 8 different tools. And what Hoop does is it consolidates. So now I don't actually, and this is true, and I shouldn't say this a lot, but I haven't like opened Slack in like a couple days.
I'm so excited to be here with Gabe Huertas del Pino, who is a startup founder, and he's going to tell us all about his startup.
Hi, everyone. So my name's Gabe. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Arch Pet Food. Arch is a pet consumable company, so a dog and cat food and treat that uses sustainable novel ingredients and focuses on wellness. I'm going to just give you a concept. I do have a, this wasn't
Oh,
planned.
fun.
It's just sitting next to me, so I'm going
Do
to
you
grab it
have a
just in case.
dog there too?
She
She's
comes and
sleeping.
goes. I'm actually
Okay.
surprised that she's not like waddling around in the background.
Okay. So, how long have you been in business?
So just celebrated our third anniversary.
And how did you get into the business?
Well, not a super normal way to start a business, but the idea struck me. I was fostering dogs in the pandemic, so it took about 2 years of like, let's say, formulation. I was getting my MBA. So I had this like, can I build a business while in school, and is that even a practical thing to do? I entered it into a competition. We had some wonderful tailwinds I did not really fully anticipate. I thought that like no one was going to really like the idea. And before I knew it, we were very, very microfinanced, but like alive. Cut like fast forward a couple years, we were Purina's Innovation Award winner last year.
Awesome.
We're now nationwide, and yeah, it's like building brick by brick.
So, where can people find Arch Pet Foods? Is that, or Arch Snacks, I guess?
Yeah, Arch Pet Food, and we're mostly in independent pet food stores. So if you go to like a mom and pop pet food store, you have in the Midwest a medium probability of running into us. And we're on now on Chewy and Amazon and places where pet food is sold.
That's so cool. As someone who's just building software my whole career, I have such a deep respect for people who actually build things that you can like touch and feed and manufacture. Did you have a background in foods or manufacturing or anything like that?
Oh, I want to flip it back before I answer that, which is like I have such a respect for people who can build like intangible items. This is incredible, and I'm a caveman. I'm like making things in kitchens. So I do have a little bit of a consumer background. I use consumer products every day. For 7 years, I worked for a consumer brand where I did high level strategy and sales.
Okay, awesome. So, what is a normal day like for you, Gabe?
Well, chaotic, usually, and I grabbed it to make an example of it. I used to open up my planner every day. So I would look to see what tasks I had like identified for myself, go through my calendar to see what meetings I have to be on camera for and put myself together for, or if there's anything I have left to prepare. And the funny thing is that like the actual substance of those meetings can be different every single time. So sometimes it's operational, sometimes it's sales, sometimes it's in persons. So driving to pet stores or driving to a pet conference, flying to events, and every week is different.
The glamorized image is like Gabe is in a dog park feeding dogs and talking to dog owners, and the sun is shining, and maybe there you have like a little stand or something where you're selling from. But it sounds like with most jobs, it's the shuffling of making sure things are delivered on time and on shelves, and the packaging looks good, and improving designs. I mean, that's the sort of work that you're mostly, not mostly, but it's mostly in front of a computer, it sounds like, right?
I would say 80% in front of a computer, though I've really wanted to be in front of the customer as much as I can. So there was a point
Right.
in time where the sun was shining, I was in dog parks, and I was asking, "Hey, can I talk to your dog?" We've done that multiple times, definitely more in the beginning than lately.
Okay, awesome. And so, and like being a busy startup founder, like how are you feeling most of the day? How are you like, do you feel like you've got everything under control? Do you feel like things are coming at you in all different directions? What is that like?
So there's a lot of resources that exist in the world that help make it less stressful. Um, and I'll say that like you can only control what you can control. Control what you can, organize what you can, and that's the best you can. That's the best someone can do.
So do you go by any sort of productivity frameworks, or how do you think about structuring your day to get the most out of it?
So I'm constantly goal setting, like let's say quarterly, annually. We announce these numbers aloud to make sure that we're being transparent with investors, with stakeholders. I think we do it more for self accountability. So like it's an accountability exercise to make sure that like we're doing what we're purporting to do. And that's how I look at it. Most of the stuff is a dog chasing cars, drinking from fire hoses. And then when you get like an hour of peace, it's like, oh, right. I'm trying to hit this goal and I should return back to the compass.
So what tools or systems are you using? Are you using AI at all to sort of help you?
Well, yeah, I'm using Hoop recently. Hoop is the thing that we're using, which I'm currently obsessed with, which I'm like currently like a number one fan here. One is very manual. So this is like, I have one of these a year going back to like 2016. And it's a great practice for self accountability, but a bad practice for transparency within organizations. And there's nothing worse when I see something in here from like 2 or 3 days ago and it says like write an email to somebody or do some type of task that like just didn't make it off the paper. So that's a sad thing that sometimes happens. Airtable is what we do for more transparent projects. We use Slack, email, and then like we use Excel and Google Sheets often because those are the tools I think that like as a millennial you're trained on.
Totally.
But Hoop has changed what we do. It brings a level of transparency to meetings and it automates the effort of drafting tasks, which is like 50%. Next is execution.
So how are you using Hoop day to day? How would you describe it and how is it helping?
Maybe my favorite Hoop story is how seamlessly it's integrated into my life, which is that like I didn't have to ask that question aloud. I just downloaded it and then gave it access to things. And I think we met on a Friday. I was like, oh, this is a really cool concept. I've been looking at AI like VAs, virtual assistants, just to see what make my life easier. I will try this out. Why not? And by Monday, it had gone through my Slack, my emails, and the meetings I'd attended, and already given me bullet points on what I should be doing. And it sent me an email, look at these things. And that's when I was like, oh my God. This is a thing I should be using, and I should be leaning in. I hadn't even started leaning in. I had just turned the switch.
And so now day to day, what's your workflow and how does it work? How are you using it day to day? Just to be very technical.
Oh, we're not a super technical startup. I use it every morning when I kick it off. I have it saved in my bookmarks as the same way when I pour myself a cup of coffee and grab my planner. What I'm currently doing is opening up to see what tasks have remained and what's there from last week, what did it grab, and trying to prioritize, shift over what my to-dos are, and build a little bit of organization around what it was able to pick up.
Do you find that it's...
Morning.
I'm sorry, what?
That's how I start my mornings right now.
Okay, that's great. And before that, what was the morning like?
The same thing, but in a lot of different places. So I'm a Redbubble nerd, and I think that's why Redbubbles exists. Like, I can't stand seeing Redbubbles on inboxes or Slack or WhatsApp or any of the different communication tools we use. Mm-hmm. And my co-founder thinks it's like, how can you possibly do this? But I do it every day, which is I go through and I will make them disappear. And what Hoop does is it consolidates. So now I don't actually, and this is true, and I shouldn't say this a lot, but I haven't like opened Slack in like a couple of days because I'm getting some of the stuff pulled in, and I'm like, perfect. And like last week, I think one time I opened Slack, made sure that I communicated on the bullet points that I accomplished that it pulled through. So
that's great.
Very pleased.
How much time do you find that it's saving you? Or I guess maybe even before that, what's the main benefit, do you think?
Time is a funny thing because I think what it does is it takes out the human element. If I was on all the time and focused, I don't know how much time I would say, like 5-10%, the effort of like writing the stuff. But what it really does that I'm like so in love with is that I'm often my own worst enemy, which is just like a thing I think that humans, like I feel the pressure of multiple interfaces and goals. When I have like a big project to do, I might just focus on that. I might not answer the email or the Slack. And it saves me that like, why is someone messaging me? Mm-hmm. And I literally know right off the bat why, like what's happening in other threads. And it like kind of relieves that stress, which is like volumes of efficiencies. I don't know if, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Do you get the same thing? Where
I do for sure.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like I think that we sort of joke that the aha moment for Hoop is this like, oh crap, when you see a task and you're like, oh, I totally would have missed that. whether it's from email or from Slack or even in meetings, especially if you're in like back-to-back meetings, you're like, oh, I did say I was going to do that. So I think that was the aha moment for me when we were developing the sort of task capture AI capability. I was like, oh, this is going to keep me accountable. This is going to make me the operator that I want to be, where I'm not missing tasks. But it's always so much nicer to hear someone else say that, because that's obviously what we're building towards. So it's great to hear that that's the intended effect.
I feel like you'll probably have your ideal customer profile builds around people who love getting rid of red bubbles.
Are there any other sort of AI things or practices that you've picked up that have helped you and your team be more productive?
Not to the same degree, so kudos on that. But I will say, like, AI is kind of leaking in across everything that you do, whether it's an integration on an existing platform or generative tools that I think have completely changed how people do things. But having said that, organizationally, this is the only AI tool that we're currently using. And it begs the question of whether I should be doing more exploration on the AI front. So I have some Googling to do.
Well, or some chat GPTing. So as a startup founder in the sort of consumer space, how are you thinking, in the software industry, everybody is thinking all about AI and efficiency. Is that permeating into your world, or are there other sort of trends or things that are more pervasive?
So I guess, a soundbite. I'm such a cynic. So I really struggle with things that, like, we're a dog food brand. At its most basic thing, we are a mixture of apple and pumpkin and some proteins, fish, and that's what we do. And I was like, how does AI help me? I have not rebelled, I was quietly rebelled against using high-tech tools. This has been one of the first, like, you've been too stubborn. You should have leaned in. These tools are amazing, and that is on me for not accepting the trend sooner.
Well, I am very glad to hear that, and it obviously warms my heart as a startup founder myself. Any sort of last words, or what would you, if someone's on the fence about giving Hoop a try, is there sort of any advice that you would give them?
I would say just try it. I think that's the thing that happened for me, right? I was open to the conversation. I downloaded it and wasn't sure when I was going to start using it, and it showed up for me. It was there outside my door with the boombox over its head. And
That's a great reference right there.
you can Photoshop me holding up the boombox.